Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today, we are talking about why are you still on T4? Now, for most of you, I'm talking about T4 only. And we have circled around this topic round and round again in other podcasts and other meetings together. But it's worth repeating because I continue to see questions and complaints and cries for help, especially on Facebook and the Facebook groups, from people that are on T4 only. And they're still struggling. So if this is you, you got to listen up. You got to get your notebook out. We're going to be deep diving into why this isn't working for you and why the hell are you still on it if you are fat, frustrated, and tired. It's time to do some change up here. So this is going to be a game changer for you. And you can probably hear the excitement in my voice. The latest introduction, the latest member of the family to the Fixxr line is Metabolism Fixxr. And this, oh my God, I formulated this just for all my people out there that need to lose weight, that need help in the weight loss department, that can't lose weight no matter what they do, that feel like they have a slow metabolism, and that might be thinking of trying all those peptides out there, you know, the Beverly Hills soccer mom drug of choice for weight loss peptides. Or even if you're on them already and you're like, man, these are really expensive and I'm still not losing weight, add in Metabolism Fixxr. Here's what I did. I took the power of T2, which increases your basal metabolic rate while you are sitting there watching Netflix. You're burning fat while you're watching Netflix. I combined it with a very unique patented ingredient called Suppressa. Suppressa has multiple clinical trials backing its efficacy in reducing your appetite, decreasing snacking, and providing way more control over your food intake. It is amazing. We also see improved emotional well-being, just decreased food cravings all around, reduced hunger, and weight management. Add on top of that, we have green tea extract, we have purple forest purple tea extract, both of which affect the metabolism in a very positive way without the jitters of normal fat burning supplements out there from the 1980s and 90s, right? The ones that made you feel like you're having a heart attack. You will not have that in any of my supplements, Thyroid Fixxr or Metabolism Fixxr. But Metabolism Fixxr, ooh, yeah, we kicked it up a notch. It is in powder form, so you can drink it through your day. It's going to flavor your water. We got orange crush and refreshing citrus. I love them both. It is going to keep you under control all day long. So you throw a couple scoops in your water bottle in the morning, throw a scoop or two in your water bottle throughout the day. You will have fat burning and appetite control the entire day for what? An eighth of a price of the peptides? Oh my God, you can't go wrong. So grab some Metabolism Fixxr today. Please let me know how you do on it. I am super excited for you. Super excited. Welcome to the Thyroid Fix podcast. I'm your host, Amie Hornaman, functional medicine practitioner, functional nutritionist, and thyroid and weight loss expert. We're talking all things thyroid, hormone, and health related in order to empower, educate, and transform you. So if you're ready to get your life back, then let's get started. So let's start with the basics. If you still have a thyroid, this applies to my total thyroidectomy, partial thyroidectomy, and still having a thyroid patients. So all of y'all. If you still have a thyroid, then your thyroid, even if you have Hashimoto's, the autoimmune form of hypothyroidism, you are producing some T4 and T3. So if you're on medication, if you're on that T4 only, then what your doctor is doing is replacing the T4 medication that, let's say your thyroid once produced a lot of, but then that T4 has to convert over to T3. So your thyroid gland produces T4 and T3. You're taking T4. So that T4 combined with the T4 that your thyroid still produces a little bit of, depending on what stage of Hashimoto's you're in, you're still producing a little bit, that has to convert over. So that has to convert to free T3. the active thyroid hormone. That active thyroid hormone attaches onto receptor sites on every single one of your cells, every single one. So your brain has receptor sites on it for T3. Your liver has receptor sites on it for T3. Your heart has receptor sites on it for T3. That T4 must convert over into free T3, into the T3 thyroid hormone, the active thyroid hormone, and connect onto those receptor sites on your cell. Now, here's the problem. I always say that conversion is like running a marathon with hurdles. It's hard to do. And many times what we'll see is that T4 converts instead to reverse T3. Now, reverse T3 is the anti-thyroid hormone. You'll hear me use this analogy over and over again. It's like a bouncer at the club. It's a bouncer outside of your cell door saying, Mr. T3, you can't get in. You're not allowed in. You're not allowed in to do your job today, like running your metabolism, growing your hair, lifting your brain fog, giving you some focus and concentration, giving you energy to get through the day. And that's why you are still fat, frustrated, and tired on T4 only, because that reverse is standing outside the cell door. That could be one of your problems. So reverse T3, we test it, we look at it, we have a functional lab value that says, we really like it below a 12. If that reverse T3 is high and you are on T4 only, you will continue to feel more and more like crap. That reverse T3 goes up, you have more bouncers outside of your cell doors. T3, what's in there, can't get in, and your hypo symptoms continue and get worse and worse and worse. So they build upon themselves. Maybe you started with just fatigue. Then you put on those extra 20 pounds. Then you figured out that you can't even finish a sentence because of your brain fog. Then you started having constipation. So they're going to build upon itself. All the while you're saying, hey, my doctor says I'm normal. He's doing all the testing, she doing all the testing, right? Normal, quote unquote, but I still feel like crap. Well, is your doctor testing reverse T3? Is it above a 12? Or are you just taking T4 only? Those are the questions to ask yourself. And then we look at your free T3 level. So if all that T4 that you're taking in only converts to reverse T3 or free T3, let's look at your free T3 level. Are you getting that tested? Bet you 9 out of 10 of you aren't. So grab your labs, look for free T3 on your labs. That we really want in the upper quadrant. So I say 3.5 or above, but I know many of you listeners are from other countries, so we have to say the upper quadrant of that range. Now, that being said, you can go over the range too. Your optimal might be different from Susie Q's optimal over here. And just like my optimal is different from your optimal. So 3.5 or above, yes, you can crest over that range. We need to test the free T3 to know how much active thyroid hormone is in your body. So let's go all the way back. You have a thyroid. Thyroid is producing T4 and T3, but you're on T4 because you have hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's. You've been diagnosed. Your doctor's giving you T4. T4 only. Keeps testing you. Keeps testing that TSH and free T4. Keeps telling you you're normal, or maybe gives you more T4. So then we just keep going up and up and up in the dose. So now your dose is increasing. You feel worse. Your dose is increasing. You feel more like garbage. You get more hypo symptoms. Is anybody testing your reverse T3 and free T3? Probably not. So here you are stuck on T4 only. Why are you still staying on T4 only? Well, because my doctor told me I have to, and he increased my dose and said that everything was fine and told me I was normal. But if you don't feel good, if you don't feel like yourself, like you used to, if you don't recognize the person in the mirror, then that's not optimal. Then that means you are not okay. And you cannot accept normal from your doctor as he continues to increase and increase your T4. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. You have had a partial thyroidectomy or total thyroidectomy. So now we're taking a piece of your thyroid out, maybe a piece, maybe the whole thing. And then let's follow the logic on this. Then we give you T4 only. And we say, here you go. Good luck. We hope you convert because we're not giving you any T3. Remember that thyroid gland that you used to have, or that was all there at one point in time? That used to produce T4 and T3. It produced 2 thyroid hormones. It gave you a little bit of the active thyroid hormone. It gave you a little bit of T3 when it was there and it was working. And it also gave you T4. T4 is your storage. That's the storage. So T4 has to convert, remember. So now you have no thyroid or half of one, and we're giving you T4 only. And we are what? You guys have heard me say this before, crossing our fingers and wishing on a rainbow that it converts over to T3. But we poor thyroidectomy patients, nobody's testing your reverse T3. Nobody's testing your free T3. At this point, it makes even less sense to test your TSH or even look at it, because what difference does it make? You don't have a thyroid anymore anyways. So thyroid stimulating hormone, what's there to stimulate? You don't have a thyroid gland anymore for my total thyroidectomies, my TTs. My PTs, you still have one. Yeah, we can take a peek at your TSH, but we really need to look at that reverse T3 and free T3. If we don't, you're screwed. You're going to be suffering with hypo symptoms, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And you're going to be told that you're normal. And then you're going to progress into here's a Band-Aid, Susie Q. Here's a Band-Aid for you, Sally. Here's an antidepressant. Here's a blood pressure medication. Here's a statin. Here's a water pill. And maybe we'll even put you on some birth control, because, it sounds kind of like hormones, even though we didn't actually test your hormones. Your hormones are messed up. Here's a birth control pill. So now you're getting all of these Band-Aids instead of just freaking getting some T3. Give me some T3. That's the active thyroid hormone. So that's where we intervene. That's where we pull you away from the doctor that keeps telling you that you're normal. We pull you away from the doctor that is not testing anything beyond TSH and free T4. And we do thorough testing, and we say, okay, Susie Q or Miss Sally, whichever one you are, we are going to look at your labs in their entirety, because you, poor thing, have been stuck on T4 for years. And all the doctors that you've seen, it could be 10 different doctors, 5 different functional practitioners, 3 nutritionists, and 2 integrative medicine docs. And I'm sorry if you still feel like garbage. They have not done their job, or they do not specialize in the thyroid. So we're going to pull you away from all of them, and we're going to look at you as a whole person. So we're going to test everything. We're going to look at everything. We're going to get that full picture of what's going on with you beyond the TSH and free T4. Because if you're on T4 only and you keep taking it and you keep hoping that you're going to feel better, and you keep trusting in the fact that your doctor says you're normal when deep down you know that you're not, and you're really freaking frustrated that people keep telling you you're normal, and you're like, I'm not normal. I'm really messed up. Somebody needs to jump in and help me. Or you reach that point where you go, am I going crazy? Maybe I am actually losing my mind. Maybe the doctors are right. Maybe I'm just depressed and I need an antidepressant. Maybe I just need a sleeping pill. Yeah, my blood pressure is really high. Gee, that has nothing to do with stress, does it? Maybe I am losing my mind. And then you fall into it. You fall into what you're being told, when in reality, it's so simple. You just need to be looked at as a whole person. You need to look at that free T3 and the reverse T3 to get that whole picture of what's going on. In addition, since I'm on a little bit of a mini rant, let's also talk about the antibodies. Do you know that there are 2 thyroid antibodies? Some doctors don't realize that there are 2, or they find that one is more important than the other. There is TPO and TGA. So thyroid peroxidase and thyroglobulin antibody. So you call it TPAB, however you want to call it. When you're looking at your labs, you're going to look for the whole spelling or the abbreviation. Both of those need to be tested for us to see whether or not you have Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's is the autoimmune form of hypothyroidism. It's important for us to know, not that, I'm not going to stick you on T4 only if you have Hashimoto's, that's for darn sure, but we're going to treat you just like any other hypo patient. 95% of hypothyroid patients have Hashimoto's. It's nice to know because as you progress through those stages of Hashimoto's, and we can give you a link to the other podcast in the Thyroid Fixxr podcast grouping of the 5 stages of Hashimoto's that might be good for you to go back and listen to because we don't want to go into every stage right now. But there are 5 stages. And once you progress into stage 4 and 5, now you're looking at other autoimmune conditions. So I've had a couple patients in the last couple of weeks have Hashimoto's and rheumatoid arthritis, Hashimoto's and celiac disease, Hashimoto's and Crohn's and psoriasis. So where we see one, we normally see more than one. We want to keep those antibodies at bay. We want to reduce them. Now, antibodies do fluctuate. So you can't base your wellness or your, let's say, success in thyroid treatment just based on antibodies alone. They do fluctuate, but we want to take a look at them and know whether or not you have Hashimoto so we can keep everything at bay and keep your autoimmune from progressing into other autoimmune conditions. Okay, so back to T4 only. Why are you on T4 only if you still feel fat, frustrated, and tired? I saw a question on Facebook and it was in one of the groups. And basically, I can't remember the exact question. I should look it up for you guys. But it was basically saying that I'm really, really frustrated. I have all these symptoms. Boom, 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 boom. Listing them all. And you all know them because you all have them. You all been there. I know. I've been there. So you have all these symptoms. You feel like you're going crazy. You just want somebody to tell you what the hell's wrong. And she's on T4 only. And she's saying, well, what do I do? And you got people jumping in, go, well, check your vitamin D. Okay, well, that's a good answer for time, for looking at fatigue, but that wouldn't be my first go-to. And they're like, oh, make sure you're eating a certain way. Well, yeah, okay, that's good and all, but there aren't foods that contain T3 in them, FYI. So to answer her question, number one, you're on T4 only. The reason why you have all those symptoms is because you're on T4 only. That in and of itself, without looking at any of your other labs, that in and of itself doesn't work in the majority of patients. Because when we're talking about conversion, I said earlier, it's like a marathon with hurdles. We have to look at all the other factors. Now, how many of you, and I bet you this lady asking this question, did not have her estrogen, progesterone, free and total testosterone, DHEA, full iron panel with ferritin, zinc, magnesium, iodine, selenium, insulin, hemoglobin A1C, a comp metabolic panel, a CBC, Epstein-Barr virus, Lyme panel, and I probably missed a few in there. Bet you she didn't have all those. So that's what we have to look at for that conversion factor. Is she converting all that T4 that the doctor's dumping down her throat and she still feels like crap? Is she converting that? Is there an issue in one of those labs that will tell us like, hey, this is a problem. This is interfering with T4 to T3 conversion. Or does she just flat out not freaking convert well? Maybe she just doesn't. Maybe she's just not good at converting T4 to T3. We chalk it up. We make her feel better. So it comes down to looking at her as a whole person. And instead of throwing darts and saying like, well, this week I'll do the AIP diet and hope that I feel better. No. Let's look at your labs. Let's look at your symptoms. Let's look at all the factors that interfere with T4 to T3 conversion, and let's do something about it. Get the frick away from your doctor. Let's actually fix you and get you on the right medication at the right dose for your body. Address the other factors that need to be addressed, like high insulin, high estrogen dominance, a clogged liver, heavy metal toxicity, mold toxicity, Epstein-Barr virus in its active form, Lyme disease, on and on and on. Let's fix that and do everything at once. And then guess what? You won't have to post anymore in the Facebook groups. Please help me. Why do I feel like garbage? I'm on 112 micrograms of Synthroid and XYZ. My doctor isn't listening to me. Then move doctors. Go away. Go away from the doctor that won't test you beyond TSH and 3T4. Go away from the doctor, like I did, that said, I'm sorry, I only treat with T4. And you go, well, you know what? I read all this. And I heard this lady on this thing called the Thyroid Fixxr podcast, and she keeps talking about T3. And then she had experts on, and they're BSing about T3 and the power of T3. And, there might be something to this. So if your doctor responds with, well, I'm sorry, I don't do that, then it's time to move on. It's time to move down the road. I'm taking a minute to interrupt the podcast just to tell you how you can sign up for a free discovery call with me to learn how we can work together as a team and how I can help you to get your life back. So if you go to my website at amiehornaman.com and click on book a call, you can schedule a call that's convenient for you. It'll be about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and that's where you will learn what it looks like to work with me, everything that we cover, top to bottom with your health, how we develop a treatment plan, a personalized nutrition plan, a personalized supplement plan, and how we work together as a team with me holding your hand to get you your life back. I know this is a bit off topic, but I have to tell you this story. And I promise you I will be doing a separate video podcast, something on this, because it literally infuriated me last week. I'm doing a follow-up with a patient, and she goes to her OBGYN. So her endocrinologist, worthless, pointless. So she goes to her OBGYN. Now, sidestep, eventually, now she is seeing my nurse practitioner, who is part of my team, because we're not dealing with the BS anymore. We're not even wasting time trying to pretty please our way through endocrinologists and PCPs and OBGYNs that won't listen and won't test and treat people this way. So she's good now, but we got her on the right track. She's seeing my NP, but she wanted to try her OBGYN, who I believe she had heard was very, very good, heard very good things about this woman. And she goes in, and the woman pretty much in a nutshell puts her down for having these complaints or concerns. Tells her, well, you're just getting older, You're 45. You're never going to have a 25-year-old body. So you might as well forget that. And, you're getting older, so we don't need to test your hormones, because, you're going to be in menopause anyway. So those don't really matter. She said a couple other demeaning things, and to which my patient left and cried in her car. And then we talked that day. So we got her back on track. All is well. But it's very easy, even though we had been working together. She has heard me. She has heard me ad nauseum, just like all y'all have. And yet it still affected her. It still hit her. When her OBGYN flat out said to her, like, I'm sorry, why even desire to have a 25-year-old body, right? That sucks. Who says that? Who says that to a patient? And then I will tell you, I can't remember the exact details of the story, but something else similar happened within days. Days later, I talked to a new patient who pretty much got the same runaround, the same spiel from her doctor saying, you're just getting older. Your labs are fine. You're normal. You're just getting older. This is just something you're just going to have to get used to because you're just getting older. I can't even go down that hole, right? It just infuriates me as it does you. So those stories do kind of tie into the topic of the day. Why are you still on T4? Because it's not working. I implore you, if you are one of the people that are right now getting ready, you're pulling up Facebook to post in the group, please help me. I feel like garbage. What do I do? Then you need to move on. If your doctor is not testing beyond TSH and free T4, you need to move on. If your doctor will not be open to a change of medication beyond T4, you need to move on. If your doctor is not testing for all those cofactors that are involved in T4 to T3 conversion, you need to move on. That's just what I'm saying. T4 to T3 conversion is imperative. I'm not saying that you have to be T3 only. You don't have to be on T3 only, but for God's sake, don't be on T4 only and feel like crap and accept this as a way of life. So I guess this message is both educational, a rant, and giving you hope all at the same time. So take that for what it's worth. Hopefully you got some nuggets out of that to at least be able to write down and think on. And I guarantee you we have some new people listening. They're going like, yeah, okay, that's me. I do. I post in the groups because I feel like garbage. And people are telling me to change my diet and take some vitamin D. And that shit ain't working. So I'm going to have to do something different in order to get my life back and feel better and actually enjoy who I'm looking at in the mirror when I get out of the shower and catch that glimpse of myself naked in the mirror. You know, you got to be able to tolerate that. You got to be able to halfway like what you see looking back at you, and we can definitely get you there. So don't accept normal. Don't accept you're just getting older. Don't accept it because you don't have to. There are definite answers. T4 to T3 conversion has many factors that go into it. We have to look at them all. And I will say one more thing before I get to all your questions. One last thing I will say. 9 times out of 10, we see insulin resistance with hypothyroidism. I have a whole separate podcast on just insulin resistance and hypo. We see insulin resistance with hypothyroidism. If you do not do something to pull that insulin down, now when you're testing your insulin, that should be below a 6. When you're testing your hemoglobin A1C, that should be 5.0 or 5.1, maybe 5.2. And your fasting glucose should be below an 86. Now, I know some of you are getting high fasting glucose numbers, especially if you're testing yourself with a glucometer. Look at your fasting insulin and your hemoglobin A1C. You got to bring those bad boys down or you will never convert T4 to T3. It just won't happen. It will not happen. And you will be just a fat storing machine because fat cells grow in the presence of insulin. So here you are already stuck on T4. Your doctor won't change. They're not testing everything. You got insulin resistance. You got the double whammy to your metabolism, which is hypothyroidism that isn't being treated properly, plus insulin resistance. You're just going to be storing fat left and right. So if weight is an issue, please, please, please consider that as well. And again, if your doctor won't test for insulin or hemoglobin A1C and he thinks a comp metabolic panel with a glucose number is enough, it's time to move away. Time to move away. Okay. So some awesome sauce questions that I want to get to here. What do you suggest if taking Armour, but free T3 is still lower at 3.1? Reverse T3 is at 13, right at that cusp. How do you increase the T3? That's a great question. So when you're on Armour, listen, just because you're on Armour and you're taking some T3, it's magical, but it's not the, miracle solution for you. The question would be the dose. And here's the thing with Armour, we can change the ratio. So when you're taking any kind of natural desiccated thyroid, NDT, it's roughly 80% T4, 20% T3. So if we're finding that, hey, you're converting, you're at a 13, like we'd like that to be a little bit low, but it's not bad. Like you're right there. And then we check everything else. So we're checking your iron, we're checking your ferritin, your zinc, your iodine, your magnesium, your selenium, your estrogen, your insulin, your A1C, all of that good stuff. Your cortisol. Did I mention cortisol before? I didn't. Cortisol and stress level. If we're checking all of that and all of that is cool and all of that checks out, well, then what I would do with you is first, maybe increase the Armour. Second, we can change the ratio and add some T3 in so that you have a higher ratio of T3 than just 20%. Maybe we change that. We tip the scales a little bit. So it becomes like 70-30, 60-40. And then what do? We ask you how you're feeling and we look at labs, both and, not either or, both and. So what do your labs say then? And then how do you feel? I hope that answers your question, but that's what I would say is actually, how do you feel? How do you feel? And that's the big thing. Don't just go by your labs. So this would be a totally different question if you said, what do you suggest if taking Armour, but free T3 is still lower at 3.1, reverse T3 is 13.1, and I feel like garbage? Well, then immediately, I mean, we're going to increase the Armour. Maybe we'll add in some T3. We got to get that level up, get the reverse down just a tad and get the free up. Okay. Question on T3. Tertroxin pill container doesn't say the dose. Well, that's kind of wrong. One small little white pill. How much should one take if T3 only? Girl, I don't know. I can't answer that. If you have a prescription, it should say the dose on it. So you should absolutely, and you as a patient need to be your own patient advocate. And you need to know what dose you are on. So whoever prescribed this for you, please call them or check your medical records, check your patient portal, see what dose you're on and make sure you're taking the right one. Because sometimes we tell people, hey, we'll tell patients split this pill in half and take half in the morning, half in the afternoon. That's totally different from taking one pill and one pill. And sometimes so in the US, you're talking about an out of country T3, but in the US, we have 5 micrograms or 25 micrograms and then 50. So if we want to go, let's say dosing a patient at 15 micrograms of T3, we're going 3 pills of 5. You don't want to mistakenly go 3 pills of 25. You don't want to be accidentally taking 75 if you're only supposed to be taking 15. So you have to know what each pill is and what your prescribing dose is. Like, what is your prescription? Let's know that. We got to know that. Okay. Says the nurse practitioner on your team is out of state. Does she do telemedicine? Would insurance cover labs that she would recommend? Yes. So there are some states in the US here that have banned telemedicine for whatever reason. I know Virginia, Michigan, Missouri, Mississippi, one of the other M's, Mississippi, not Missouri, Mississippi. We cannot do telemedicine, but all the other states, yes. And we can prescribe across state lines. Yay. And yes, insurance does cover labs most of the time. Now, every so often we'll get a patient that has this wackadoodle insurance that says, we don't cover labs if the labs are written by a practitioner that is out of network. But that's literally 1 in every 1,000, I would say. Patients will have that kind of wacky answer occur, but most of the time, yes, absolutely we can. And let's see. Is there a connection between Hashimoto's and non-alcoholic fatty liver? Really good question. What do you recommend for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? So with Hashi, we often see high insulin. So I said insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes. It is that high insulin that often causes fatty liver because the fat accumulates in the liver from people walking around with really high insulin and high glucose numbers. So that fat will literally accumulate in the liver. So what responds to, or what NALD, non-alcoholic, NAFLD, NAFLD, what that responds to is intermittent fasting and a low carbohydrate diet. Because when you pull down the insulin and you're dropping the glucose level and you're maybe even producing some ketones and you do some intermittent fasting, you're allowing your body to burn the fat stores that are in your liver. So instead of the fat stores on your body, we want to burn those fat stores in the liver. And in order to do so, we have to drop the insulin, lower the blood glucose, get you out of that insulin resistant state. And then your body can actually tap into your liver to burn those fat stores. And there's some supplements that we can use as well. You've heard me talk about berberine. I love berberine by Designs for Health, berberine synergy. It has alpha lipoic acid in it. We can link to that in the show notes as well, since we're talking about it. But love that. That helps with insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, balances that insulin and glucose effect, making it more of a wave-like pattern so that when you're in this wave-like pattern, your body can actually tap into fat stores for fuel instead of being in this roller coaster pattern up and down, where your body instead in the high is always storing fat. So it's kind of what we talked about earlier, that you're always like, you're a super, super duper fat storer. Like you're in fat storage mode all the time. You're not fat burning, you're fat storing when your insulin is high and your thyroid is not functioning properly. Okay. Is it okay to take Synthroid and T3 sublingual if you have malabsorption issues? Yes, you can. Man, that gets really kind of chalky after a while. Oh, but yes, you absolutely can. And then the other advice that I often give is to take your Synthroid at night, right before bed. So if you're not on an NDT, you can actually split this up and you can take your T4 medication right before your head hits the pillow. There's a really interesting study out that shows, and statistically significant is, we'll take that out of the equation. Yeah, it was definitely statistically significant, but it was huge. Like the difference was huge. So free T3 went up. Free T4 went up, reverse T3 went down, thyroid antibodies went down, T3 uptake went up. Every single marker for thyroid improved. TSH went down, improved. Every marker improved when patients took it right before bed versus in the morning. And then think about it, it makes it way easier for you. You don't have to wait that full hour before drinking your coffee, because we all know you want to get up, you want to get going, you want to drink your coffee, you want to eat your breakfast. You don't have to wait that full hour because you already took it at night. Now, you take your T3 in the morning, yes. And then you're saying, but what about my T3? If you're still working at getting optimized, then I say, if you can wait a full hour, that would be great. But if you are optimized like myself, I can kind of get away with like half hour, 45 minutes. And then I can drink my coffee when on T3, only because T3 doesn't react as much as or have as many issues as T4 does in terms of absorption. So taking T4 right before bed improves your absorption rate. They actually tested, they saw in that study that T4 has a circadian rhythm. Well, TSH has a circadian rhythm. So by taking T4 at night, the absorption is better in your gut through the night, and your TSH increases at night. So this helps push that down because we want that down. Let's see. Last question, and then I will let you all go. What are your thoughts on LDN? And should there be any circumstances that it shouldn't be taken? Okay, that's a great question. I love LDN, low dose naltrexone, for those of you who don't know what it is. LDN is used in autoimmune conditions. It works fantastically to bring down antibodies. It works really, really well on insulin resistance, and it lowers inflammation. Now, are there any circumstances that it shouldn't? That's individualized. So that really is between you and your prescribing doctor as to if you fall into like a contraindication category of some sort. But yeah, I mean, sometimes people aren't candidates for it, but I can't think of one off the top of my head to throw out to you in terms of like, oh yes, LDN and I don't know, AFib or don't go together. That's just made up. I just totally pulled that out. But I don't know off the top of my head what contraindications there are for LDN. So there we go. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, please share this episode and check out the entire Thyroid Fix podcast on iTunes, and it would be awesome if you left a review. And just a reminder that anything you hear on this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat, so you always want to check with your doctor about any advice given on this podcast. And if you would like to schedule a discovery call, please refer to the show notes for all the links. Everything that we talk about in this podcast will be in there with a guide for you on how you can get your life back. Let's get fixed.